Hello everyone, this is Brian Daniel, your certified English teacher, coming to you once again from EnglishBuddha.com. Welcome to another podcast. So today we're going to talk about American customs. In particular, we're going to talk about dating. Okay. Now, in the West in general, in Western countries, we are, compared to the rest of the world, I think, quite free when it comes to dating. And what I mean by that is we've pretty much taken all the stops out, which means we don't have a lot of the rules that are governed by, let's say, society. I wouldn't say law. I mean, in certain countries, of course, it's quite strict, your code, so to speak, in certain Middle Eastern countries especially. But in the United States, of course, we're quite free with this. Now, let me preface this conversation by saying that I've traveled quite extensively around the world, of course, throughout the United States and North America in general, throughout Europe, throughout Asia, and throughout the Middle East, and many countries. And I can say confidently that we are quite free in the United States, in particular, because that's where I'm from, when it comes to dating, social norms, and, of course, what we call PDA, public displays of affection. Now, in the Middle East, for example, and every country is a little different, the rules are very different from the United States. The families are involved quite a bit. Now, I'm not talking about arranged marriages. That is an entirely different podcast that we won't even get into this time. But let's just, all things considered equal, let's say that people have the freedom to date who they want because their families are not imposing any rules on them, and there's no restricted situation or arranged marriage. Going beyond that, in the Middle East, what I observed is that the families are very involved. If you're interested in somebody, the families have to approve. There's a lot of, courting of the family in terms of the families get together a lot, and they're kind of checking things out, seeing if the parents on both sides feel that it's going to be a good match. And this kind of situation can go on for weeks, if not months. I've observed that once you kind of get the approval, and then things go in very small stages. I mean, it would be a long time in the Middle East before a man and a woman, teenagers, whatever, would be able to go out on a quote-unquote a date. And eventually when they got to that, it would not be like in the West where people are going to, if let's say on a first date in America, it would not be unheard of if they were really hitting it off, if the couple was really getting along, to actually hold hands, to even kiss. You know, the guy walks the girl to her porch at the end, and there's a goodnight kiss. This in the Middle East would be absolutely unheard of. And in Asia, on that subject, it is not as rule governed is the Middle East. But in Asia, certainly, they are definitely more conservative than the West. There's no question. And again, public displays of affection are not as common as they are in America. Now, getting to the meat and potatoes of this conversation, you probably clicked on this because you wanted to hear about the dating in America. So, in America, we have now what's called modern women. It used to be, if you want to go all the way back to the 50s and the 40s, things were much more conservative, and the man had to make the move and all of that. No, it's an equal playing field now, and it is certainly not unheard of at all if a woman is interested in a man, to go up to a man and be very overt about it and ask for a phone number and these sort of situations. In the West, in general, we are very direct when it comes to our interests. You know, in America, we have what's called a fast food society. And of course, I'm not just talking about the food. What I mean is that we want everything quickly. We want it now, like fast food. And so in America, we are really not as patient to take the kind of time that to go through a process like I was describing in the Middle East with the families involved and getting the approval and make it very long. No, we don't do that. The courting period is very short in general. And I would have to say, I don't want to get into a religious kind of conversation, but of course, if someone was very religious, of course, having sex before marriage, usually in a very religious situation, is unheard of. You know, you're gonna wait till you get married before you live together and before you have sex. But I would have to say that these things are getting more, I don't want to say rare, but even, let's just say, conservative Christians now have kind of adopted the philosophy where, you know, they're, I guess you could say, progressive Christians, and this whole rule of sex before marriage or living together before marriage is kind of going away. And again, people are, I don't want to say they're losing values. It's not that. We just live in a different time. Again, it's kind of that fast food mentality. So that's it. That's kind of the once over. This is a very general kind of situation. I certainly don't want to blanket the entire Western thought. These are just my observations from growing up and living in America my entire life. So if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to shoot me an email. And that's it. Brian Daniels signing out on another podcast, EnglishBuddha.com. Thank you very much.